Today I'm canning sweet pickle relish. If you're looking for a recipe that is similar to store-bought, this is it, only a little better. And in my opinion, it's hard to beat a store-bought pickle. This relish has the right texture, the right taste, and an ingredient that you might not have thought about using in your pickles. This is actually a recipe from Ball's complete book of home preserving. It's called Grandmother's Golden Relish, except I've taken out the ingredients that made Grandma's relish golden because the mustard and turmeric is very overwhelming. Trust me, leave it out. So here's how to can sweet pickle relish. It's best to use field cucumbers. That's regular old cucumbers, not pickling cucumbers. If you have to buy cucumbers from the store for this recipe, make sure that the cucumbers haven't been waxed because the pickle juice may not be able to penetrate the wax coating. Grandma's recipe calls for peeled cucumbers, but that's so that the relish will end up golden, not green from the cucumber peels. We're not peeling cucumbers in this recipe. Cut the cucumbers into strips and remove the seeds. This is why pickling cucumbers aren't recommended, because if you remove the seeds, not much is left of the cucumber. Now, the cucumbers need to be chopped, and the way to get the best texture for relish is with an old-fashioned food grinder. If you don't have one, you can chop everything up with a knife or a food processor or whatever way you can do it. I'm using the grinding wheel that has 3 arms on it if you have one of these grinders. So grind up your cucumbers. You also need to grind up onions, red bell peppers, and green bell peppers. I'm doubling Grandma's recipe so that I'll end up with a full counter load of pints. I'll put the amounts I'm using in the description box below. You need 12 cups of chopped cucumbers, 4 cups of chopped onions, 2 cups of chopped red bell pepper. I don't have that many, so use what you got. And 2 cups of chopped green bell pepper. Add half a cup of pickling salt. It's always recommended to use pickling salt in pickling recipes because it's pure salt, not something with fillers in it. And if you use salt with fillers in it, it could cloud your pickles, and the fillers could mess up the amount of actual salt that is required in the recipe. It's sold right next to regular salt. It's not that difficult. So mix it up well so that the salt is well dispersed through the vegetables. Then let the vegetables sit for 12 hours to overnight. When the time is up, rinse the vegetables well. I always rinse them several times because I don't want the relish to end up salty. Then squeeze out the excess water. Now it's time to start heating your jars. I still heat my lids and rings, which they say is now optional. It's always worked well for me, and I don't mess with success, so I keep heating mine. To make the pickle juice, in a large pot, add 6 cups of sugar and 5 tablespoons of Clearjel. That's right, Clearjel is in Grandma's recipe. And I know what you're thinking. No, Clearjel is not the same as Surgel. I made a video a long time ago explaining all about Clearjel. I'll put a link in the description box, and the shipping deal in that video no longer exists, by the way. So back to making relish. Stir the sugar and Clearjel together well in order to avoid lumping. By the way, if you don't have Clearjel, I'm sure you could leave it out, but the relish will probably end up running. Add half a teaspoon of turmeric. Hey, you figure out how to say it. Add 1 tablespoon of celery seed, a tablespoon of mustard seed, and 4 cups of white vinegar. Stir all of that up and bring it to a boil, stirring constantly. The syrup will look milky at first. Keep boiling and stirring until the mixture looks clear. It will start looking kind of glassy. Now add the vegetables and bring the mixture to a boil that cannot be stirred down. Now we're ready to can. Take a hot jar, fill it to within ½ inch of the top, Remove any air bubbles with a non-metallic object. Wipe the rim of the jar clean. Add a lid and a ring and tighten it firmly. Put the jar back in the rack of the water bath canner to stay warm until all of the jars are full. You should always can one jar at a time. When all of the jars are full, lower the rack into the canner. Make sure there is at least 1 inch of water covering the jars and put the lid back on the canner. Bring the pot to a boil. You'll know it's boiling when you see steam coming out from the lid. This is where your processing time starts. Process the relish for 15 minutes if you are using pints, 10 minutes if you are using half pints. When the time is up, turn off the heat and remove the lid. Let the canner sit for 5 minutes. Remove the jars and place them on a towel on the counter to cool. The next day, remove the rings and wash the jars. You should remove the rings because there could be food trapped under the ring on the jar that could lead to rust. I don't advise putting the rings back on the jar, but you can if you want to. Write sweet relish on the top and the date that you canned it. So that's how you can sweet pickle relish. I hope it helps.